When listening to the second OP of Frieren, Haru by Yorushika, I believe most people's first impression, including mine, is that it's catchy, musically fitting, and perhaps a bit simpler thematically than its predecessor. Well, quite the contrary. In terms of storytelling, sure, it's not as dense as Yuusha by YOASOBI, which I talked about in my last video, but the subtlety of Haru's lyricism and the emotional weight it carries, especially when you take its own music video into account, in my opinion, goes much deeper. So in this video, I'll be breaking down Yorushika's Haru, why its music video is such a crucial part of the song's message, and why there is so much hidden brilliance behind its simple lyrics. Similar to YOASOBI, Yorushika is also a music duo and features the producer Nabuna and the vocalist Sui. While they're not as popular internationally as they haven't been as involved in anime music as YOASOBI, their popularity in Japan often rivals the electric pop duo. As I mentioned, Haru's lyrics seem relatively simple at first glance. You can kinda tell it's about metaphorical weather and seasons, and you're not wrong. But to truly understand the song at its full capacity, we have to look through the lens of its music video. But before we get to that, if you haven't seen the music video, I highly recommend watching it first. It's such a well-crafted, stunning piece of media. If you're a Yorushika fan and have seen the music video, you might recognize that the art style and CG look familiar. And that's because it's made by the same director behind Haru Dorobo and several other Yorushika music videos. Now I've already talked about how YOASOBI's Yuusha fits the anime with its lyrics, as they literally reflect the story of Frieren's memories about Himeru. But with Haru, despite the sunny title, it's a song about pushing through tough times. More specifically, in the case of its music video, moving on from the loss of loved ones. So it actually fits Frieren in a more spiritual and thematic way. With that established, let's talk about Haru and its music video. Although its lyrics may not appear to be directly related to Frieren, if you translate Haru into German, you actually get the word Blaue Himmel, which means blue sky, a reference to Himeru. The producer of Yorushika, Nabuna, has said that Haru is a song about wishing to go from cloudy to sunny, both literally and metaphorically. And musically, it does exactly that. The song begins with an upbeat, light, and cheerful rhythm of guitar and drums that is indeed spirit-lifting. We're also introduced to the main characters of the music video, presumably a father and a son, during the winter time. In the second verse, Nabuna used the word bidoro to describe the boy's eyes. It's a very old-fashioned, Edo period way of saying glass, which is quite unique and poetic. It's like instead of saying eyes like glass, you say eyes like marbles or vitrum, which is what bidoro originated from. The boy checks the mailbox, hoping for a letter, but finds it empty. This may seem trivial, but it's gonna tie back into the story later on. And that leads us to the first chorus. While the first chorus still has a relatively positive vibe, the jet fighter flying over the kid's head, alongside the burning fields, reveals that the story is actually taking place during wartime. What's even more interesting is the wailing wall standing behind the father and son. It's pretty well known that Frieren has a strong connection to Germany, with most of its characters named after German words. So for one of the most symbolic Jewish landmarks to appear, it sets a serious undertone of war in the music video, and that's also where the story started getting heavier. One thing that really stands out in this song is the parallelism in the lyrics. Throughout the three choruses and the verses that lead up to them, the structural patterns are all the same, with only a few twists in the wording. Like in the verse before the second chorus, where the weather has worsened, and the mailbox is still empty. The lyrics shift from anata no me wa bidoro to anata no me ni bidoro, and the meaning goes from eyes are to eyes have, symbolizing that the glass has turned into tears. Which brings us to the second chorus, and in my opinion, lyrically the best part of the song. To reflect the weather and the kids' emotions, the lyrics went from hare ni hare, hana yo sake, to naki ni nake, sora yo nake, from sunny to rainy, and my favorite line from the song. Furishikiru ame de sae, kumo no ue de wa haru. Ultimately, Haru is a song about positivity, but instead of the blind optimism that things will always work out for the best, it offers a different perspective. Even when it rains, there is still sunshine above the clouds. And that's also a callback to Himeru, whose name in English means sky or heaven. Both are above the clouds. The father follows the boy who ran into the rain down to the wailing wall and has a massive breakdown. He's visibly confused, but still goes to comfort the boy. But that's where he realizes he's actually Bruce Willis. Or to put it plainly, he's no longer alive. In the bridge, Hitsujiku mo are mo haru no se. Hitsujiku mo is a kind of cloud that signals upcoming rain, also known as autocumulus cloud. We see it appear in the father's flashback to when he was alive and holding his kid, who was much younger at the time. In hindsight, that cloud was actually a signal of not just rain, but of war and his own demise. For Haru to appear during the needle drop of the last chorus is such a brilliant choice. It almost feels like a statement instead of a title. After that, we're finally seeing the story from the kid's perspective, confirming that his dad has been gone from the very beginning. Hare ni hare, sora yo sake, saite haru no se. Throughout the song, haru was always written as a verb, but here it becomes a noun meaning spring. That indicates a passage of time, from winter to spring, from denial to acceptance. And the scale has gone from the weather between days to an entire season. So it's no longer just about good days and bad days. It's about finding yourself in a better place that is long-term. We see the boy finally accepting his father's passing. Instead of checking the mailbox, holding on to the hope that he might write back, the kid buries his final letter to his father, which appears to have the words, "Dear Dad," outside of the envelope. With him able to move on, the sky is finally clearing, and rays of sunlight pierce through the clouds, symbolizing the arrival of spring and reflecting his new frame of mind. What follows is my absolute favorite part of Haru, which unfortunately isn't in the OP. In the last line of the final chorus, "Sa kono uta yo nage," it's basically a demand for the music to quiet down. And in response, that is where the music ends. So for the outro, where Sui finishes with a callback to the first chorus, she sang it in a cappella. This is why I love Yorushika. Nabuna's genius is truly unparalleled, and Suije has the most beautiful voice that fits any type of song and genre. There's an impression that Haru isn't a very complicated song due to its music and lyrics that, if you don't examine closely, may appear to be rather simple. And it's partially true because it does require the music video to complement it and unlock its full potential. But that's part of the storytelling, and when you put all the puzzles together, you get an incredibly thoughtful and well-crafted song that radiates comfort and positivity. Haru may not be as instantly recognizable as the Frieren OP as Yuusha, because its lyrics are quite abstract and less directly influenced by the IP. But its theme and topics of grieving and the cruelty of war make it more than just a fitting theme song for Frieren, but an amazing piece of music in itself. Thanks for watching. This has been Cushion. See you next time.